Thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. I have had several members of the leadership of Restoration One on my podcast in recent months, and today I am very excited to be joined by the man at the top, Gary Findley. He is known as the Redneck CEO by his book and being on Undercover Boss recently. He is also the chairman of the board of Stellar Brands. He's the founder of Restoration One, and he has been involved in a lot of franchise operations over the years, including some other franchises that our industry will have heard of. So I'm excited to have Gary with me today and kind of talk about his background and his journey to where he's gotten today. And I really want to also talk about what makes R1 different from some franchises in the industry. So Gary, thank you very much for joining me. Yep. So I'm just going to have you share a little bit about yourself and your foundation and background.
Perfect. So I have been, and thank you, by the way, for having me on. And I know you've had Tom and Sherry on there, and everybody's loved it. So thank you again for your interest in Restoration One. So I have been, my background's really in franchising. Well, if you go all the way back, my background's in fitness. That's where I started. And then I got into fitness franchising by helping start a company named Curves back in the 90s, a women's fitness chain, and had the opportunity to grow that company from 2 locations to about 8,000 over an 8-year period. So that was a home run. That wasn't a second, third base. It was probably a grand slam, I would say. So kind of went from there to back in franchising. And I was working for a company, VP of their franchise department in service brands. And so that's kind of where I started learning more about service brands and really how much I love those as opposed to brick and mortars, which is pretty much all I've ever done. So I kind of in the middle of that stint, I ended up back in fitness and back out, and then doing development for several companies over the 30-year career. I've awarded over 10,000 franchises. I've been involved in probably a dozen franchise startups. And so, I kind of say this is that, the different companies I have done from, fitness is probably the only one that I had a pretty strong background in. The rest of it, I mean, I had, nanny services, dog daycares, facial salons. So obviously I didn't know anything about all of those, but I think my best hidden talent is hiring the right people, as you've probably already seen. And so I got approached by a guy, and actually, to correct something, Andor Kovacs from Southern Florida. Andor is actually the founder of Restoration One. I'm the founder of Stellar Brands, of this holding company.
Okay.
But I met him, and he said, look, kind of completely opposite. He said, I know everything about the restoration business. I know nothing about franchising, and I need you to help me grow this company. So he had about probably 21, 22 locations when I started with him. And he said, hey, here's the keys to the kingdom. Take this, run with it, go build a franchise company. So that's what I did. I moved the headquarters to Waco. Had the opportunity to bring in really good people. One of them was my son. The other one was his best childhood friend. And they came from another service franchise company. So they started with me. We built the company. Over the next year, we put on about 100 locations and continued to have great growth. And then as we have built that, we've continued to build on the team. And just when you have this, tremendous growth, you got to have the right people. And then there's always there's a time to make a shift. I think my management style has worked all these years in that, I grew up in a town of, probably 300 people. I had 23 in my graduating class. I married one of them. It'll be 40 years this year. So, and I was related to somebody on every street. And that's basically what the story of my book is about, is that you can kind of come from anywhere and I believe and have an opportunity. But what we've done in the last few years is really build that stellar team, with Tom and Sherry and people out in the field that Sherry has brought in with her background. And Sherry's just a great, perfect fit for moving into what we want to do over the next, 2, 3, 4 years.
Yep.
And then she and Tom do have a background in this industry. So, I did the same thing at Curves. I did there for 8 years with great growth. And there's a point to where I feel like, I want to bring it. We need to go to a different level. I need different people with different personalities. So that's what we've done. And the other thing is, I've been doing this 30 years. I love hanging out with my grandkids. I love hanging out. Got a new one coming at the ranch and spending time and doing the things that I really want to do, but still be able to sit back and look at the growth of the company. But the right people are in charge, and I'm confident in that, and I feel very good about handing over those reins to be able to do what I'm doing now. So again, it's just and I think this will definitely be this definitely be my last one. So
I don't know. You sound like a serial entrepreneur. So
I say that, my wife says, yeah, right. And then, the next day somebody call and go, hey, I got this idea. But for right now, it's about building the Stellar brand, and taking that, where we need to go, and being able to let our staff grow and build off of our staff, Sherry, and the team creating that. And so it's a good place to be in right now. I'm very, very happy with what we've done. And then, I think the best thing I can bring to the company right now is to bring more eyeballs, which was what the show was about, which was what the book was about, and getting out there and letting people know who Restoration One is. That's the best value, that and probably my franchise experience that I can bring to the company today.
So in your book, you talk about kind of some of the transitions. You were one of the busiest CEOs during the pandemic, and you were going through some transitions there. So can you talk a little bit about, you had Blue Frog Plumbing and R1, and then you had an investment group come in, right, that started showing interest in what you were doing. And so that helped grow this company into Stellar Brands. Is that right? Can you talk a little bit about that transition you went through?
Yeah. So 2019, we started, there's a lot going on in 2019, right? Yeah, 2019. And investors were kind of chomping at the bits for service brands. So with private equity, private investors, and that was a big deal. And so I started getting a lot of interest, and our owner Andor was totally 100% hands off. So it's kind of, you make the decisions when you find the right people. So, I had 4 or 5 people came in and had strong interest, but, I felt like I had a great relationship with MPK partners out of Dallas, which is part of the Perot and the Mays family. So it's family investors, not private equity. So, which was kind of a great next shift for us. And so, we were still a small company, but still, had a long way to go in growth. And so we did that. So we kind of courted through about half of 2019 and into about May of 2020. And, two things happened there is that in the private equity world, a lot of PE companies and investors backed out of deals because of the pandemic. They're getting ready to close, pandemic shows, and people go, oh my gosh, got to go back and run the numbers, how that's going to affect your business. So that was one of the things I appreciated the most about MPK, was that they followed through. So they stuck with it. They followed through. We started that relationship, and immediately, probably within about a month, Sherry came on board. And so these are, two, it's several other people, but two of the major families that have gotten together for family investment. So then the next road was to form a holding company. So I put together Stellar Brands as our holding company. And then we actually had a company called the Driveway Company. And then that we bought Stellar, that one of our first acquisitions. So at that point, we have Restoration One, Blue Frog Plumbing, Driveway Company, and then the Driveway Company has morphed into Soft Rock. Courtney Harmon, who is our president, she is an amazing person. And so she was able to go out and find, Soft Rock, which is another product that's being used. So we formed this holding company, and so the plan is right now is that as things are continue to grow out that there's, if there's something out there that makes sense for restoration business, plumbing business to connect with, so that we've got this services that we can offer to anyone. So that's kind of the plan right now. And, for us, luckily for us, we were one of those businesses that didn't shut down. Plumbing and restoration continue to roll through. And, I got involved in this business because I had a flood in my own house. So I said, hey, this is a great idea. These guys, I watched how and it wasn't a franchise, it was a local company. And so for me, having been in brick and mortar my whole life, so my new thing was low investment, low overhead, high margins, no brick and mortar. Okay. And so that's kind of what I started looking for. And everything that we do and put on board has that kind of background on it.
Sure. When Edward founded R1, did he have the concept of no program work with it? I think that, that's something that everybody pays attention to in our industry. Yeah. It's, interesting topic in our industry. Yeah. So was that always the plan? Was that always a big differentiator?
Yeah. Yeah, it was from and let me tell you something, not coming from the restoration business. I go to our first conference and I stand in front of everybody and I go, hey, you know what? Because to me, I did come from another company that had a restoration company. Yep. And that's what everyone did. That's what everyone's doing in the industry. And I make an announcement that, hey guys, I'm going to go out there and help you do program work and pick up. And I mean, if they could have strung me up, they'd have strung me up. Yeah. And I didn't understand it until I spent some time with my franchisees to understand their rationale and reasoning. And it has worked very, very, very well for us. I mean, from a franchise development part, it's actually easy to explain to people what we do, why we don't do it. And it's a differentiator. So, I mean, there's a lot of restoration franchises out there. So you need something that sets you apart. And I think that Restoration One under Sherry's leadership and Tom is going to push forward. And I think we could become, part of the new norm, but that's what sets us apart. That works very well. And another reason why it's for me, it was time to go back here and focus on driving, looking at other brands, looking at other acquisitions, and to continue to have people looking at what we do. So because it has continued to grow year after year after year. I mean, at a really high growth rate. Yep. So obviously we know it works, right?
Yep. So, all right. So you were talking about hiring people being one of your big strengths. So kind of what's your secret sauce there to finding the right people, getting the people in the right seats, and helping drive that bus forward?
Well, originally it was to find people that had not so much restoration background, but franchise background, but franchise service background. So as I said, that's kind of how we started it with Mike and Jay. That's what they had. They had franchise service, not in this necessarily industry. Jay had a little bit, but we started from that. And so that's what I was looking for, because the very beginning, you got to set systems and process in place. And you get those because, I mean, franchising is something I know very well. So we did that and we got those things in place. So the hiring method, that's what I look for. As we go to the next level, now it's to really dig into people that understand the industry, come from the industry, have industry background, and continue to build and create programs and national accounts and things like that to grow the company. So it just shifted over time. We were fortunate enough to go out and find the right people to allow us to shift into that.
Okay. So I'm curious if you'll share kind of some of your biggest successes along the way and some of your biggest failures that you've learned from. I mean, I know that another point in your book is, learning new skills delivers new rewards, and, dirty jobs build character. I love that you talked about FFA. I didn't know what FFA was until I was an adult and living in rural Indiana, but nor did I know what 4-H was. But those are big character building opportunities, which I could tell then. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So to me, again, the biggest difference of growing up in a small community where you know everybody. My dad's on school board and he's on the water board and he's a deacon of the church and we're related to somebody. There is just this where people help each other. And so there's this kind of very strong work ethic. Most of the people in the town worked at a large plant, they worked at large plants in Waco. And that's what they did. They did shift work and things. And so they were very much about hard work. And then the ethics that you find, you can't get away with anything. So you can lie to people if you want to, but in a town that small, you're not going to last long, right? And so I grew up showing cattle. So I raised cows from calves up and I took them, I showed them. I've had a horse probably since I was 5 years old, probably had a motorcycle or four-wheeler since I was 6 years old. So, we were the kind, we get off from school, go drop our books off, hop on our horse and drive around and go ride around town. So with these things, as I worked on ranches and farms and custom farming, it was just learning those, and those are my biggest successes. I believe very much so, is that hard work, integrity, and then in addition to that, is I was fortunate enough to be raised in a very strong Christian home. So it was that faith that I was able to build, and that faith comes from there are tough times. If you're an entrepreneur, it never goes that easy. I mean, we were humping along. Everything I've ever done has been sweat equity. My family had they had, my dad was in a business for himself, so they knew he taught me how to run a business, build a business, but also how to treat people. And I watched by example. My dad, in the community, he took care of people. He coached baseball leagues and stuff, and they truly cared about somebody. And they were the kind that if something happened, they were there. So those would be successes I've learned in growing up in that. And again, if I'm at 15 years old out at 3 o'clock in the morning in a field, 10 miles away from somebody, no flashlight, no cell phone. I had to walk to my car, and something happens, you got to figure it out. So you can't get on the phone and you can't Google it, and you can't YouTube it. So you got to figure it out. So it teaches you to kind of be nimble, and act. And so learning that, but then giving me that drive to do something more. And I think that probably the things I've learned the most across there is hiring the right people, as I said, but treating those people well. I'm not and I'm not saying it's anything against, I'm not a sit in the office, do meeting type person. It's never been in my personality. Meetings are, they're important on some level. Over meetings is too much. If you have a meeting to have another meeting, to have another meeting, that's too much. All the time you're doing that, you get people that, especially workers, they want to get busy. They don't want to spend time doing that. So that's not my personality. But I am very much I'm a relational manager. So my whole life, I had, let's say at Curves, I had 300 employees. Most of them, I knew their kids. I went to their kids' baseball games and those kind of things. And that's shifted over the last 35 years, right?
Sure.
It's just not the same. But I learned that failure comes, again, sweat equity. I didn't have the money to buy my own businesses. And when you have a little hiccup, which I did, it can go bad real quick. So I went bankrupt. We lost everything. And I've also been fortunate enough to be married to an amazing woman that, when I said, okay, look, I know we've lost everything, but I'm going to try this next deal. Right. And she had that faith in me that I could do it. I had, strong faith that I could do it. And I've seen that work out throughout my life. So I think that, I've had to learn that not everybody grew up in the country and has that kind of relationship. So you've got to be very cautious of everybody's not the same. So, I've learned that, handshakes are good with some people, handshakes are not good with other people.
Okay. Has anybody ever told you that you sound like Dave Ramsey a lot in your
Uh,
your
no.
values and um going, he had a similar story with almost being broke at one point and growing his empire
Yep.
back and roll up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say Dave has more in common with my wife and being I make money and spend money. My wife saves money,
Got it.
so
Okay. All right.
you know
So
we've
nerd
had to
versus
yeah
not.
we've had to come together. I'm a shopper. She's not. We've met, but it's the same thing about we have done everything. Our forward drive is about being able to give to others. And some people go, yeah, you say that. I will say our life has shown that. Kim and I have funded a lot of ministries over the years. We've built homes for people. We've bought cars for people. We've been there to, be there for, whoever we needed to be there for. So that was our driving factor.
Okay.
So being able to, not about making money in the next house and the next things, we live fine, but we want to be able to help other people.
Yeah. I love that. So as you've developed and grown, you've often been the leader at the top, which people say it can be lonely at the top. So how have you kept growing and kept investing in yourself and been motivated to grow and kept learning for your level of leadership?
Yeah. I like to read, I like to keep up with things, but it's usually it's not the things I kept up with when I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, I read every motivational book you could possibly read, right? Probably the best book I ever read growing in my early 20s. We had 3 kids by the time I was 23, 24, something like that, 25
Wow.
maybe. We
Okay.
got married, I was 20, Kim was 19.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the best way to tell somebody is that we started dating in 78. We graduated high school in 80. We got married in 82 and we had kids in 84, 86, 88. So I really didn't have time to sit on my hands. So I had to go out and start doing things. So I needed to learn those things in management style and motivation and stuff like that. But then it shifted. But the best book I ever read was by Patrick Morley called The Man in the Mirror. And it wasn't a motivational how you make money book. It was about how you build your character and how you live your life and how you stay Christ-centered in it while you're doing it. So that was that I think that really helped me to continue to grow. Now my goals are different, and so I wouldn't say I still read. I like autobiographies on stuff, the kind of the Cinderella stories of somebody who's built something.
Mhm.
And then continue to, where really the next the next phase of my life is, yeah, it's spending time with my kids, but it's also being involved in ministries.
Yep.
I'm on some boards of some today. So to me, it's about what can I do? And Kim and I have been very quiet about, which is very biblical, about not wearing that sign around, just going, hey, I did this, I did that. And we built this home one time and, they wanted to do a big article and put our name in it. And I said, that's not what we're doing it for.
Mhm.
So ministry related moving forward. So that's where I put that's where I'm studying and learning now.
Okay. All right. So this is a little bit, I guess, shifting back to the business side of things, but I was wondering, PE and M&A has really changed the landscape of the restoration industry over the last few years. And I'm curious how you've seen it change franchising overall. I mean, you were with Dwyer Group and some others for a while. Like, how have you seen the kind of that landscape shift as things consolidate and change?
Well, certainly in that PE world right now, everybody's their number one thing is the service business. It makes sense, right? Because what we had, all the businesses that had to shut down during COVID, that did not happen with our businesses. So what I would tell you that I've seen is it's driven the values of these businesses um, a lot. I mean, it's really driven the values up, and it's caused more players to come in. So more players in the service industry, and whether it's restoration, whether it's plumbing. And I think it's because people realize, hey, I can go out there and um, build a service brand franchise company fairly quickly. And with 20, 30, 40, 50 franchises, I could turn around and flip this thing because they're looking for them. So they're building them to be able to turn these things relatively soon. So that landscape has changed. And of course, when I was with Dwyer Group, that's where I learned the service into the business. They've been very successful in building this, and you can do it organically, you can do it by acquisitions, and a blend of both is good. So I would say it's the landscape has been, there's more eyeballs on our industry right now, and especially restoration, because it is just one of those things that, if you wake up tomorrow morning and you have 2 feet of water on, in your bedroom, you can't say, I'll put it off, I'll wait, whatever. It has to be done. And, I mentioned on the show, I said something about, this is, you're not just restoring homes, you're restoring people's lives, and you truly are, because they're handing you over the keys to the most, realistically, their largest investment and their most personal thing outside of their kids. It's their home. So you got to make sure that people that come in there are going to treat your home like their home. And that was what I found out the most on the show, is that my team was doing that. And I was never so proud of them, and that they really, truly were excited about what they did. And they loved going to their job every day. They work for great franchisees. So that's, I mean, really the shift is eyeballs on us, right?
Yep. So, all right. So let's talk about your Undercover Boss experience. So you're one of a few restoration leaders that have been on the show over the years.
Yep.
So how long ago did you know that the show aired in mid-March? Is that right? Early March?
Yeah. Early March.
March. Yeah.
Early to mid-March. Yep. It aired there. We started filming back last year.
Okay.
Early in the year. And I really, I would say, I don't know, the first of the year, we kind of found out through our PR company that I was going to be able to appear on that. So, it took a while. The hardest thing really is having 9, 10, however many months you have, and not be able to say anything. Right.
Sure.
So that makes it a little bit tough, because you're always worried something's going to slip, but we were fortunate we didn't, and I wasn't recognized out in the field.
That's amazing. So what is a highlight to you from the show and from that whole experience? That might be 2 different questions, actually.
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest highlight was having a better understanding. When I was at the Dwyer Group very, very early on, I've done water damage work, right? That was something that we'd done before. Seeing where that has gone and what the kind of jobs our franchisees are doing, but also the pride that they do it in. So, I mean, you look at, everybody had something different. I had one guy I met with that was awesome at customer experience. So we in that we said, hey, help us make a video. I had one that was very much into the way that his van was set up. I mean, this thing was set up like you would your motorhome. Very organized and stuff. I had a young lady that had grown up in the business, but had she had to prove herself. She had to go out there and really work hard to do it. And she was very, very passionate about, she worked a lot. She's very passionate about what she did. She loved it. For me, it was learning, what you do with a franchise, train through training, and you hope they're doing what they're supposed to be doing out there. But I found out that they were. I found out they were very much following the system. And making us proud.
What kind of exposure do you think the show gave R1? Have you seen more interest, more people aware of the brand? Like, what is the?
Yeah, I mean, you got 3.5 million, three and a half million people watching. Yeah, I mean, we certainly became a household name. People at that point knew who we were. And so, if you've got a job that you need to do and you go, man, got water here, and you go look it up, you're going to, you may not know some names, you'll know the ones been around forever, but you'll look down, you go, oh, Restoration One. So we saw, I mean, I got franchisees that called me, were texting me that night. Hey, I just got, 7 calls. I just got this, I've got that. And then, our website impressions and the leads that were coming through there, it kind of lit up. So, and that's what we hoped it would do. But, you want it to, and understand something. I don't see this till everyone else sees it. So, so, it was a little nerve wracking.
I bet.
Right. But yeah.
It worked out. It worked out well. All right. So before what's next for R1?
I think right now where Sherry and Tom are really focusing is on taking what we've already built, and then how do we continue to grow that, and what are things that are going to take us to another level, whether it's technologies, whether it's services, whether it's different types of accounts. It's continuing to grow the system that they've already built. So, I mean, really R1 is all about how to drive revenue to our franchisees. I mean, I tell people all the time, it's a very simple system, especially franchising. I make money when you make money. So, you have to, as a franchise company, be about driving revenue to your franchisees. And we do that by putting new services in place. And, I think part of that, what Sherry and them are doing too, is, continuing to find more, the right people, put them in the right slot. So, just, I believe certainly taking this to another level, even more than what we've been doing.
Yep. I loved during the convention, both Tom and Sherry admitted that they are like, go fast. And that was one of the things that they realized that they listened to from franchisees, is like, we have all these ideas and we're going so fast. I think I can see that you three probably work very well together in that. So it's exciting to watch R1 grow and be part of it. Anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I mean, we certainly appreciate what you do, and keeping all the information out there fresh, and give other people in our industry, how do we not just build Restoration One, but how do we build this industry? What are the things we can do to build it? So, and that, again, that's the skills that Tom and Sherry and some of the other people that we've hired have more so than I do. So I see great things. I see this thing really blowing up over the next few years, and more opportunities to come along. So we're excited about what that future looks like. I'm excited about being able to sit back and look and watch somebody take something that we built and build it even to a better franchise than what we've had. So I'm excited about what's going on.
Well, Gary, thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at some future events and all that. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
For more Restoration Today, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, or find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts.